where news comes first. WECT News begins now with breaking news.
Protesters took to the streets in downtown Wilmington, and now a citywide curfew is in place until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. A state of emergency went into effect this evening when law enforcement was forced to disperse protesters downtown. This all began after a large crowd gathered downtown protesting the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Tonight we have live team coverage of the protests and all that has unfolded over the last 5 hours. WECT's Emily Featherston, you have been out there since about 6 o'clock, but we're hearing that things seem to be calming down. Is that what you're seeing out there right now?
That is what we're hearing right now. We've got some sheriff's deputies crossing the street behind me, but we're here on Front Street, which is pretty quiet at this time. Most people are heeding that new curfew that is in place. These deputies telling folks to head home. Like you said, this did start at about 6 p.m. tonight. That was when this event started. Now, I want to reiterate something that we learned over the last 24 hours, with that this event was not sanctioned by our local chapter of Black Lives Matter and the NAACP. They did not know who had originally planned this event. They were telling people not to come. People still came. They were on 3rd Street right there in front of City Hall. Now, we were there. We were watching things happening. When I talked to the sheriff's deputies about why they showed up, they did show up and say that it was an unlawful protest, telling people to disperse. They said that it was because they were blocking the road. 3rd Street was blocked for a good period of time, and then because they had weapons. And, you know, over the evening, the crowd did split. They have been walking around down here in downtown Wilmington. If you've been to downtown Wilmington, you know it's set up like a grid pattern. They were going street by street, trying to disperse what they called pockets of individuals. We are now here on Front Street. We did walk up Front Street to get here earlier, and we did not see property damage. When we walked by, there were some business owners standing outside their businesses. Sorry, we're watching these deputies, just making sure that we stay out of their way. Now, again, we've talked to some different leaders here in Wilmington. We talked to Mayor Bill Saffo. We talked to District Attorney Ben David. We talked to Sheriff Ed McMahon, and they denounced the violence. They denounced what happened in Minneapolis, why these protests are taking place across the state and across the country, but they did say they would not stand for lawlessness. And I said what those reasons were a second ago, why they said this was an unlawful protest. But I think that back at the studio, we've got some video of what we talked to them earlier, and let's take a listen to what they had to say.
As I saw it from a window, they weren't peacefully here. They were throwing stuff at the police officers. They were taunting. They were attacking cars. They were in the middle of the street. We asked them several times to please disperse, to please get out of the street. I'm sure a lot of you saw that. There's a lot of video of that. They were over there not only possibly injuring themselves by being possibly run over by a car, but also hopefully, and thank God we didn't have anybody get hit by a car. And so we were asking them to disperse, and they would not do so. They wanted to do that on purpose. It was very well orchestrated.
Again, a curfew is now in place across Wilmington until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. That order came down from Mayor Bill Saffo, who you just heard from. He also said his message to people tonight was to go home, and that what he was witnessing himself out on the streets was not about community, but about chaos. That's from Mayor Bill Saffo. He signed that declaration of emergency, putting that 6 a.m. curfew through tomorrow morning into effect. A big question is, what about damage? What about destruction? We've seen images from other parts of the country. WECT's Kendall McGee has also been out there since about 6 o'clock tonight. Kendall, have you seen any of that?
You know what? We've been looking around, we've been talking to people, but we haven't seen that much damage. When we spoke to Mayor Bill Saffo and we spoke to District Attorney Ben David, we asked them about reports of people being injured, people being arrested. They said no injuries. They've had a handful of arrests. We also asked them about property as well, and at that time, there were no reports of any vandalism. There was no reports of any looting. Right now, we're on the corner of Front Street and Orange, and there's a pretty significant law enforcement presence here. All these folks are wearing helmets. They're wearing bulletproof vests. They are in full riot gear. They've got the armored vehicles. We've got at least 3 that we can see right here on the corner of Front and Orange. Law enforcement has definitely been very active in Wilmington's downtown tonight after about 8 o'clock. Our public officials have also been here. They have had boots on the ground. We've seen Sheriff Ed McMahon. We've seen Police Chief Donnie Williams. We've seen District Attorney Ben David several times tonight walking around with officers. Now, we did speak to all of them as well. They did have things to say to the people of Wilmington. Their message is pretty unified. They want people to go home. They want people to be safe. They don't think what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis is okay. They respect people's right to protest, but there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And bringing weapons to government buildings is illegal. You can't do that, and that will not be tolerated here in Wilmington. They're going to do everything that they can to protect people's safety and their property. We asked them how long they're going to be out here tonight, and they said that they're going to be out here for as long as it takes. Here's what District Attorney Ben David had to say to us.
Violence, lawlessness will not be tolerated. To be very clear, we renounce the killing of George Floyd up in Minneapolis, and we absolutely respect people's right to peacefully assemble to protest that. That is enshrined in our First Amendment, and we uphold that Constitution. We also uphold the Constitution with people's right to bear arms, which is enshrined in the Second Amendment. What you're not allowed to do is violently protest, including having arms at a demonstration like this that you're openly displaying. We developed information that that was occurring. We tried to get that crowd to peacefully disperse in order to not have a crime of violence in this city. And when they did not, there was a dispersal that was ordered as a result of that. That's where we are right now. There have been a couple of arrests made at this point. We'll be seeing them in court tomorrow. The bottom line is we are going to continue to do all we can to make sure that this city is safe while protecting people's constitutional rights to voice their upset with the current state of affairs.
Alrighty, and again, we're on the corner of Front and Orange, and it's a rapidly evolving situation right now. They appear to be talking about their next steps. We've been following teams of law enforcement up and down Wilmington's downtown tonight, and we're going to continue to bring you updates through the night. Anna?
Yes, Kendall, thank you. We're glad to hear that things seem to be settling down a bit. Our crews in the field, you and Emily, have been out there since 6 o'clock, and you were in the thick of things when inert gas was being used to disperse the crowds. And earlier you talked a little bit about the wind and how that was affecting those efforts. Can you kind of go back and walk us through what you saw happen?
Absolutely, Anna. It happened very quickly. Protesters had been in and out of the street since the demonstration began around 6 o'clock. And at a certain point, cars full of law enforcement officers came up and they announced on the loudspeaker that people had 5 minutes to disperse, that they needed to get out of there. A few moments later, we saw smoke. We believe those were smoke bombs, and then inert gas was fired into the crowd. Unfortunately, due to the wind blew that gas back on the law enforcement officers on the ground, and it also blew it into our eyes as well. For those of you that have never experienced inert gas, it's very damaging to your eyes. It makes your throat burn. It makes your nose run. It's very effective for dispersing crowds. A lot of people left pretty quickly after that. It's a pretty effective tool, Anna.
Yeah, absolutely. And Emily made note that you both have been trying to wear your masks because of COVID-19, and that made it much worse when that inert gas was flowing around in the air. So you've kind of been battling those elements. Kendall, thank you. We will check back with you in just a few minutes. Obviously, this story developing very quickly over the last few hours. You can stay up to date throughout tonight into tomorrow by downloading the WECT News app. You can sign up for our breaking news push alerts. It is free in the Apple App Store or Google Play. Of course, we're also updating WECT.com. Stick around, much more live coverage from downtown Wilmington straight ahead.
Where news comes first. WECT News begins now with breaking news.
We continue following the growing and continuing unrest Now in Wilmington and across our state, we've seen protests in Charlotte and Fayetteville, tonight in Greenville and Raleigh. During a press conference today, Governor Roy Cooper shared concerns that the violence is overshadowing the important calls for change made in peaceful protests. The governor said the unjust killing of George Floyd broke open painful wounds and that Floyd and many others should be alive today.
We've had moments of heightened awareness, some right here in our own state, but they faded from the headlines too fast. We've made some progress, but when you see George Floyd on the ground begging for air, you realize that we have so much more work to do.
Governor Cooper also said he spoke to George Floyd's sister, who lives in Hope County, yesterday. He said while he can't bring her brother back, he wants to encourage some of the hard conversations that must be had to fight racism and build safe communities. The governor also expressed some of the mayors in these communities across our state where daytime peaceful protests have turned to something different after dark. He's urging them to encourage their police officers to de-escalate the situations and to open dialogue with some of the organizers of the peaceful protests. Today, Columbus County Sheriff Jody Green responded to rumors of potential riots in his area. On Facebook, Green said his team supports organized protest, but will step in and take charge if people break the law. He said, quote, "We will be out in full force protecting our citizens and property, and we ask that everyone pass the word that we care about each other and their property, but we will not tolerate any destruction of property or theft." We also just got an update from Wilmington Police, who tell us they're now patrolling other parts of the city. Interim Police Chief Donnie Williams tells our Francis Weller that officers have both arrived at the Independence Mall and Mayfair. They have those locations covered. We have a crew at Mayfair as well, and are told several WPD officers and New Hanover County Sheriff's deputies are making rounds there, but we're told there are no protesters at this point, at least not at Mayfair. Stick around, more live coverage of tonight's breaking news right after this. Our team coverage tonight continues with WECT's Emily Featherston, who is live in downtown Wilmington. You've been there for hours. Emily, have you spoken with any protesters?
We did. We have been out here for a long time, and throughout the evening we would find ourselves standing in the crowd, hearing what they had to say. Several of them would come up to us to tell us things. Obviously, a lot of frustration over what happened in Minneapolis. Just issues in general that people were taking with police brutality, but we also heard from local activists that were very fearful about what was happening. We heard that over the last 24 hours about our leaders at the NAACP and the Black Lives Matter chapter here in Wilmington, that they were not sure who was in charge of this. So we heard those concerns from people, but we also heard, people from all kinds of backgrounds talking about their frustrations with these incidents that we've seen over the last several years, but specifically the one in Minnesota. You can see behind me, quiet. We're here on Front Street. The Wilmington officers, the sheriff's deputies, just left. They drove up the street about 10 minutes ago. We can see a few officers down at the other end of this. Okay. We can hear some glass breaking. We don't know if that is actually property damage or what's happening. Okay, we're just watching to see what's happening. We have some folks standing over there by one of the Port City vapor locations. We just hear some glass breaking. Our other team is going to walk over there and see if that damage was pre-existing to this moment or what's happening. Up until this point, things had been very quiet here, and the officers had left. We don't even hear the Sable helicopter anymore. So we're going to figure out what is happening over there. I apologize for not knowing exactly what's going on. We're going to find out. We'll come back to you with that. But for now, things mostly quiet down here, but we're going to keep watching what's happening because, again, this could evolve over time over the next few hours. But for now, I'll send it back to you, Anna.
Thanks, Emily, and stay safe out there. We want you guys to be really careful as you move about with whatever is going on. A little bit more on District Attorney Ben David shared some words a little bit earlier about how violence and lawlessness will not be tolerated while he denounced the killing of George Floyd. David said law enforcement have been working together all evening with one command center. He says the bottom line was to keep the city safe while protecting your constitutional rights. And during a press conference this afternoon, Governor Roy Cooper said he is concerned by how things changed from peaceful demonstrations urging change to something else after dark last night in Jacksonville, Greenville, Raleigh, Charlotte, tonight here in Wilmington. People are out on the streets.
Violence and destruction is unacceptable. In many ways, those actions undermine peaceful pleas for justice. I am so thankful for those who passionately demonstrated and for the EMS workers, the law enforcement officers, and the municipal officials who provided a space for voices to be heard. It was sometimes an exhausting and fearful night for them. We're fortunate, however, that none of these incidents resulted in death or critical injury.
That was Governor Roy Cooper addressing last night's incidents in a press conference this afternoon. We know that protesters have gotten back out tonight, and it's not clear at this point whether there have been any injuries or how many possible arrests this evening. No doubt we will be learning much more over the coming hours and tomorrow. At this point, we want to check in with meteorologist Jesslyn Ferencz and get a check of the weather. Jess.
This is meteorologist Jesslyn Ferencz with your first alert weather.
Yeah, we're going to get a quick look at our forecast for tomorrow. We're going to be seeing a lot of sunshine, a 0% chance of seeing any rain throughout the day, and hardly even going to be seeing any clouds throughout the afternoon as well. Temperature is going to be a little bit cooler, not as humid as we step outside as well. Temperature is going to be in the mid to upper 70s, and some backyards getting into the low 80s as well for tomorrow afternoon. But we're going to be keeping these beautiful conditions in place over the next several days. We do have this high pressure that's going to be sitting over us, so rain chances are going to be low for Tuesday, Wednesday, keeping it at 10% chance, 0% chance for tomorrow, but we are going to be upping it just a little bit as we get towards the end of the week, bumping that up to about a 30% chance for Friday and Saturday. But it's going to be feeling really nice over the next couple days, but as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's going to start to get a little bit muggy once again. And some backyards on Thursday could be reaching that 90-degree mark, so just make sure you stay hydrated over the next few days with these warmer temperatures here in the Cape Fear region. But let's wrap things up with your planning forecast. Drier with lower humidity over the next couple days and lower rain chances as well. So lots of sunshine. Temperatures are going to be increasing towards the end of the week, and your next best chance for seeing some rain in the Cape Fear region is going to be Friday and Saturday. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's check back in with our field crews. We had just heard things are starting to calm down, but then the sound of broken glass. Kendall, were you able to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, Anna, we're on the corner of Front and Orange. We heard a little bit of glass, so I crossed the street. Behind me, you can see 128 South. There was a large rock thrown. The rock went straight through their glass door. There's broken glass everywhere. The owners are there. They say that they're just upset that this happened. It's not okay. But nobody took anything, and luckily the venues that they coordinate weddings through have not been damaged. Earlier we talked to public officials, and they said there were no official reports of property damage yet, so this is the first reported property damage in this area. Today they had a pretty unified message. They don't condone what happened in Minneapolis. They want people to be safe. They want people to be able to protest, but they can't do that when they're threatening people's safety or their property. We spoke to Sheriff Ed McMahon a little bit earlier today. Here's what he had to say.
There were people that we believe had other incendiary devices. So this was people that were not trying to protest. They were trying to do damage. So we're just not going to allow that. We want you to come to Wilmington and you can protest peacefully. You cannot come and you cannot damage our town. We're very proud of our town. We have fantastic relationships within our community. It was not the local groups. If you'll notice, they didn't want to come to this. So again, we want you to come, but you have to be peaceful and you have to follow the rules. Otherwise, we're not going to stand for it.
All right, so earlier today, public officials said that there have been some arrests. Those folks will be in court tomorrow, and we'll be sure to be following those updates tomorrow in all of our morning shows, our noon show, and our evening shows as well. Reporting in downtown Wilmington, Kendall McGee, WECT News.
Thank you so much, Kendall. A reminder, the Wilmington citywide curfew in effect until 6 a.m. Our coverage will pick back up at 5 a.m. on Carolina in the morning. Thanks for joining us tonight.